welcoming our next speaker on board, ladies and gentlemen. Put your hands together and welcome Donna Lewis. From energetic chief to lecturer and present-day EdTech advisor, Donna's lively personality has her actively involved in the latest in education and the technology that supports it. Her passion for pedagogy in education and emerging technologies in the education sector has resulted in active and interactive conference presentations with a twist. Donna's studies and research focuses on blended learning and technology in teaching. It is clear she values perspectives and acknowledges discipline-specific consideration as the research continues. Going ahead and welcoming Donna Lewis on board.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much to the team behind the scenes. I'm quite impressed with everything that's going on. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak today. Hopefully you get something out of it. Just to give you a little bit of background so that my presentation makes sense. My name is Donna Lewis and I have an undergrad in hospitality management, professional cookery. So I am a qualified chef and a qualified educator as well as in educational technology. So what I'm here to do today with you is just to give you a bit of perspective. I'm not trying to tell you what you do. You are the expert in your field. Whether you are facilitating trainings, whether you are teaching or lecturing students, you are the expert in your own field. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just trying to shift the page a little bit and help give you a different vantage point of what it is that you're doing so that you can rethink it and have lasting impact. So I have this game on my phone. It's called Drawline, and there's different color dots, and you have to join the two dots together that have the same color. And it starts getting a little bit complicated because the lines can't cross each other. And one day I was busy with it and I put down my phone because I got frustrated and I couldn't anymore. I went inside, I came back, I picked up my phone and I was like, I'm able to do this now. Why? My phone was upside down. So what I'm saying is perhaps I'm flipping things upside down. I'm not trying to say that I know what I'm doing. I'm just giving you a little bit of perspective in terms of my years of experience in instructional design and educational technology. So when it comes to teaching, educating, facilitating, I heard somebody tell a story once of how they came into the industry. And they spoke to their father about it because their father was in education for so many years. And the father said, this is amazing, but promise me one thing. Promise me you won't teach 1 year, 25 times, or however many years you're going to be in the industry. And it really had me thinking, how many of us are in this robot mode of just going through the motions? Yes, fine, COVID has shaken things up a little bit, but we're sort of doing things just to get things done and not stopping or pausing to think about how can we make things work for right now? If I've been doing the same thing for 3, 5, 10, 15 years, has my audience changed? What has changed about them? And have I adapted to make sure that I am reaching them? So I just want to remind you that what you do, and anybody listening today, and anything that you do has impact. And especially if you're working in an environment that involves education. There are people that remember your name, that are thinking about you because of the time, the effort, the energy you put into making their education a success. Whether it was a short course, whether it's what I do every day and train people on lecturers on learning management systems. It's the little things you do that make an impact. So are you still excited about what you do? And if you are, can the people on the other side of the screen, or if you do have the privilege of being back face to face, can they feel that? Do they feel that you're excited? So I'm going to leave this quote here and just touch on a few things, and I hope I'm not offending anyone by saying this, but I sit in meetings. I'm shocked by how many meetings we have during COVID. I sit in meetings and honestly, I get bored. I sit and think, okay, this is not for me. Or I'll wait until I hear something that is relevant enough for me to have to pay attention to. Do we get stuck in the rut of talking at people when we are the face on the other side of the screen? Or are we using this very precious synchronous time that we suddenly find ourselves having, which is so precious and so short? Are we using it to have impact, to make sure that students are learning in that time and not just sitting back and listening and having something playing in the background? So I don't know if we realize, but back when I was at school, students, apparently, their attention span was about 20 minutes. Our lessons were 45 minutes, so that's fine. Our attention span was about 20 minutes. Today, it's about 10 minutes or less. For those people that have just about left school, I watch them watch videos on their phones. About a 3-minute video. And this button right here, they click on it all the time, skip 10 seconds. And I'm like, I said to somebody the other day, just wait for it to get to the point. And they were like, no, I just want the person to get to the point and say what needs to be said. I don't want to listen to everything else that's happening before that. And it really had me thinking, in this time of pandemic where we are posting so many videos online for students to watch, are they even watching half of what we are putting online? And if we are having synchronous sessions, whether it is online or face-to-face at this point, what are we doing to make sure that we are giving the most impact and making sure that students are getting the most out of it, or lecturers if you're facilitating, or anybody that you are engaging with? So what I'm going to touch on today, I'm not trying to say that these are amazing new things, because it's not. I look at pedagogy, I look at the experience that I have and say, how can we take the old pedagogy and transfer it and transform it to work in the now that we are busy with? So I'm saying, let's, instead of think outside the box, let's take the box and use it to perhaps transform it into something else. So the first concept I'm going to touch on today is the concept of dog fooding. That's a really strange name for a concept. And there's a lot of educational research around dog fooding that you'll find online if you do look it up. But essentially where the term dog fooding comes from is, apparently if you have a dog, which I do, and if you go and eat the dog food that you buy, as a human, you should be able to eat it and nothing will happen to you. You won't get ill, you won't get sick, you should be able to eat it and you'll be fine. So essentially, any food that you give your dog should be fit for human consumption. How does this fit into education? When last have you done your own homework? When last have you watched your own videos that you have created for your students? Now, I know some of you are thinking, I don't have the time for that. Or some of you might be thinking, you know, those audio messages that everyone sends around. I use WhatsApp a lot and I send audio messages a lot. And a lot of people tell me, oh, no, I can't listen to my own voice. Why not? If we are in the industry that we are in, we need to be willing to put ourselves in the same position that we expect those participating in our course to do. So we're sitting at the other side of it and we're going, oh, I uploaded that. How many of you have actually done that assignment? If you say the assignment takes 2 hours, have you done it? Does it take you as a professional 2 hours, or does it take a student 2 hours? If you actually had to do it, would you pick up some errors? Would you realize that there's certain things that might not be necessary for right now? It takes me back to when I set up an exam paper once when I was lecturing. And I marked the first 5 exams, scripts that I had. And I was so confused. I thought, why are all the students, did they cheat? Why are they all getting the same question wrong, but all writing a similar answer? And when I went back to look at the question, I realized that the way in which the question was worded could have warranted the answer that they gave. So I had to go back and change the memo and give them the benefit of the doubt. So I challenge you, and I know it's a struggle, go back, even just the last session that you've had, the last recording that you've done. Go and listen to it and watch it yourself. Are you excited about what you do? What points have really been brought across? And do you feel like there's something that you can shift or adjust ever so slightly so that your students are excited, so that they want to listen, so that after 10 minutes, they have not switched off or gone to do something else? And honestly, in meetings, a lot of the time is what I do is go and do something else and leave it in the background until I hear something or perhaps my name. So the second point I'm going to bring across, and I'm not going to touch on anything for too long just because of time. But the second thing I want to bring across is the importance of asking questions. Why? Because that's how the people on the other side know that they need to engage, that this is not somebody talking at them. Oh my goodness, there's questions coming. And do I understand and know what happened in the first even 5 minutes. I challenge you, speak for 5 or 7 minutes and then start off. In the first slide I showed after my opening slide, I spoke about perspective. So behind the blue circle, what light was there? What color was the light? Do you remember? Were we even paying enough attention to think about those things? If you are drawing students' attention to things, and perhaps things that are more important than remembering a color, if the color doesn't actually matter, does it help them to engage a little bit more or pay a little bit more attention? It was blue, by the way. Okay, so now I take you to my chef reference. Sorry. So being in hospitality and just thinking about how to explain something, I thought about when I was studying in my undergrad and when I was learning. And I thought to myself, okay, if I was in this environment now, we know this concept of see one, do one, teach one, right? Even if it's a maths equation or something that you are showing as an educator online, somebody that's learning will first see you do it. Then that is why we give practice examples, so that they can practice, so they can do it themselves. And then there's something about teaching somebody else to do it that affirms it in your mind. And you know, as an educator, as a facilitator, there's a lot of prep that goes on behind the scenes because you have to know what you're doing and be able to answer any questions. So it got me thinking, if I was studying now, if I was studying hospitality at this point in time, and a lot of my things were online, and they gave me a video to watch the famous Gordon Ramsay make a dish. Perhaps I got to watch it about 10 times. And then they told me, go and do your exam. Would I be able to do it? No, because I haven't physically, practically engaged in anything. So there's something about engaging more than just the mind, more than just looking at a presentation or listening to it in the background, and getting yourself physically moving that helps you to remember things. So I'm going to teach you something today. We're going to have a quick lesson. We have some time. I'm going to teach you how to cook the perfect steak from a chef's perspective. But I need you to not sit down anymore. I'm not too sure how long you've been sitting for. So for those of you who can, if you're willing to, if you want to learn from this experience in any way, please stand up, shake it out a little bit if you need to. So I am going to teach you 6 steps to learning how to cook the perfect steak. Are you ready? Okay, number 1 is, can you do that? Is to have a hot pan. Can you think of the pan in your mind? Have a hot pan. Number 2 is season. As a chef, you're always told to make sure that things have flavor. But also, if I'm seasoning just above something over here, I'm not dispersing my seasoning, now am I? So if I do it from above, then I'm going to make sure I season, and I'm seasoned from above so that I get all the flavor. You get me? So what was number 1? Do you remember? Have a hot pan. Number 2, season from above. Number 3, when it comes to cooking meat, you sear it on the one side and then you sear it on the other. You don't go back. You make sure that it's this perfect color that you need it to be before turning it over, because turning it back is not going to help the process at all. So make sure that you cook evenly on each side only once. So what do we start off with? What was number 1? Have a hot pan. Number 2, season from above. Number 3, make sure you cook only once on each side. Number 4 is temperature check. You have to make sure that you're cooking this piece of meat according to how you like it, or whoever you're making it for likes it, right? So I'm not too sure if you know this trick, but the doneness of meat, or checking whether meat is done, you can do with your hands. So this is how you check the temperature. If I hold my index finger against my thumb and I touch this part of my hand, you'll feel it feels a little bit squishy and a little bit firm. And that's how a rare piece of meat should feel. So if I feel my meat and I feel my hand, it should feel the same. And if it feels like this, I know my meat is rare. And if that's how I like it, I take it off the heat. This is medium rare. Medium and well done. Check the difference between rare and well done. And yes, you can go beyond well done and you can make it dead. So please don't do that, please, for the love of chefing. Okay. So let's go back to number 1. Number 1 is make sure your pan is hot. Number 2, season from above. Number 3, cook only once on each side. Number 4, check your temperature. Number 5 is what we all are very impatient to do. But when you take a piece of meat off the heat, you actually have to give it a chance to rest so that those juices can simmer out. Instead of if you're cutting it open, all the juices are going to come out at once and the rest of the meat are not going to have this juicy bit that you need it to. So you're going to rest, take a break. Like you do when you're doing a bit of yoga or meditation, you're going to let it rest. So let's go back to number 1. Number 1, have a hot pan. Number 2, season from above. Number 3, only cook once on each side. Number 4, check your temperature. Number 5, let it rest. And the last one, number 6, is to slice it thin and enjoy. Slice it thin and enjoy. Do you get where I'm going with this? Do you want to go through it one more time? Number 1, have a hot pan. Number 2, season from above. Number 3, only cook once on each side. Number 4, check your temperature. Number 5, let it rest. And number 6, slice thin and enjoy. I hope you get where I'm coming with this. There's something about physical movement that helps you to remember things. I watched, there's a fantastic website called The Cult of Pedagogy, and I watched Jennifer Gonzalez do this in an audience of a whole lot of people, and she split everybody up, so in a face-to-face environment, and she had each group do different things. By the end of that presentation, I remembered all 10 steps. So what's stopping you from doing the same thing? So the only reason I added the symbols is just to help me to remember what movement I had put with each symbol. But what happens if you get your people on the other side of the screen moving? They don't necessarily have to have their cameras on if they are shy or you feel they're not doing it. But what happens if they actually are active? At the end of the session, are they going to remember it more? Perhaps. So let's first go back to the first concept, which was dog fooding. The second one, which was asking questions. And this is the third one, which is called total physical response. Thank you, Samira, for putting on your camera and helping me to make this a more engaging one. So with anything, just add movement. Even if it's getting yourself moving, to just go in and watch the last recording that you've made and challenge yourself to do something differently. With that being said, all our disciplines are specific to what we do. One size does not fit all, especially when it comes to education. And I am aware that each of you listening to me has understood what I've said in a totally different way. So I challenge you to think about it and apply it as you see fit for what you are doing right now. I know I seem crazy and it probably makes you think that I am, and that's okay. But if it means that you've learned something today, then my job is done. Thank you so much for listening to me. Hopefully you engaged with me as well. I'll wait for the questions in the chat, and I look forward to the opportunity to engage further with you for those of you who do wish to engage. My details are there. I'm on LinkedIn, and that's my email address. Thank you so much. Thank you. So the first question is, how can one best facilitate experiential learning online? And this is a challenge and something that I've thought about so often. And I've seen something, and I know we all know about it, called virtual field trips. And nothing is like physically doing something and physically going to a place, but there's something so real about creating things by yourself. So as a lecturer, as a facilitator, what's stopping you from doing something from your perspective? Taking your phone and walking through somewhere and filming it. You film it in pieces so that you can stop and ask questions, so that you can allow them to pause. But there's something about the concept of virtual field trips that I really like. There's a lot of things that have already been created that you could allow students to go and see. But there's something for me about creating your own content because you know specifically what you want the people on the other side to read and understand about it. It is a challenge, and especially when it comes to hospitality, and I still keep in touch with my old lecturers, and it has been a challenge for them, but it is something that has been done, and obviously parts that they are trying. So I feel like the virtual field trips is something that you can try. and hopefully something that you feel will be worthy and have impact. I hope I've answered that question properly. How can one be assured of authenticity of online assignments? How can one be sure that the same student did your assignment and not hired someone else to do it? This is the biggest challenge I think that anybody's facing. I know we've just finished supplementary exams now with the whole online proctoring system, and there's no way to be sure. Unless you are using a proctoring system and making sure that you can physically see that student writing or doing something, there's no way to make sure whether the student has done it or not. But perhaps in terms of types of assignments, we can look at doing things differently. And I do understand that in terms of universities and places, the policies can be different. But what happens to making sure that they do an assignment like this? Record yourself. I can go look up in your student card what you're supposed to look like. Record yourself explaining something to me. Is it possible in terms of your policy to do something like that so that you can check that the person has understood? Or after the written assignment, that they can move on to doing something like explaining what it is that they were doing? The next question, sometimes you tend to forget learners with disabilities and special needs. How can learning technologies accommodate such differences? Yes, I am learning sign language, South African Sign Language. And I'm so aware of the disabilities, but there's something about the online aspect that excites me. Why? Because if I have a reading impairment, I can stop and zoom in. If I have a hearing impairment, I can try and make things louder. And I know a lot of videos these days have captioning at the bottom that also really helps. So there's a lot that can be done. And in terms of physically doing it, if somebody cannot physically do it but see you do it, that might be something that they can remember as well. So realistically, like I said, one size does not fit all. But when we are designing for our audience, we have to make sure that we think about the alternate abilities. Can they slow this video down? Can they pause it if they need to think about something? So we just need to learn how to break things up and be conscious of any possibility that's on the other side. I hope that's made a bit of sense. Number 4, tips for maintaining enthusiasm and energy throughout the school year. Tips to avoid burnout. Oh, goodness. I don't think it's possible to avoid burnout. Can I say that well done to all of you. I have so much respect for you because in a time of pandemic, you were put in such an awkward situation and just being forced to make it work. And the fact that you're still here today means you have made it work. So well done. You've pushed through it. Burnout is real. And I think in a world of constantly being switched on, we forget to stop. So give yourself your working hours and switch off. Go and do something that makes you happy and find your passion for your industry again. If it means I have to go and sit in a restaurant now with my mask on to find my passion in hospitality. If it means I have to go and watch somebody give an amazing presentation, which is why I'm on this conference today. You've all done such an amazing job in presenting. Now I'm learning, even if it's just a little bit, I'm learning from it. So we also have to learn to switch off. And I have an amazing partner who, when it's time for me to clock off, says, are you done? You need to switch off now. So it's tough, but we have to be hard on ourselves. And I think the worst part is learning to say no. The next question, mine is not a question, it's a comment. I love the energy and excitement we bring to your talk. I highly enjoyed it. Thank you so much. I appreciate the feedback more than you will ever know. Hopefully I was a little bit exciting that I caught your attention and perhaps held it for a little bit longer. But it's been an absolute pleasure to share this with you. Thank you. Another question, how do you manage or stop students from distracting themselves from the internet while teaching is ongoing? It's not possible. We live in, with a 5G network, students, anybody behind a screen no longer has to wait. I can't tell you, sometimes I'm busy with work and the internet stalls and I'm so frustrated. I'm like, how am I faster than the internet right now? Hurry up. And we've gotten to a point where we just need things to get going. You have to be excited about what you do. And hopefully if the person on the other side is called to do what they are doing, learning that discipline and are passionate about it and see that you're excited, that's your way to maintain their attention. There's only so much that you can do. The onus is not on you. And that's one thing I do enjoy about the pandemic is it's become learner-centered again. the responsibility is on them, but perhaps we can do a little bit more just to help make it exciting. The next question, what can be done to engage students on topics that are mostly based on theories? Such lectures tend to be monotonous. How to proceed? I had a lecturer once who taught from the old overhead projectors, but he was somebody that spoke with such passion and conviction about what he did, and also spoke about his practical experience in the industry, that we had the most marks and everybody had the most respect for him. Nobody came late to his class and everybody was really engaged. Be yourself. Show the students on the other side who you are. A lot of the time, I think we don't realize whoever's on the other side of the screen feels a bit of it's a us and them kind of situation, instead of feeling like you're a little bit human. So be human. Tell them about the mistakes that you've made. Make things into a story if you need to. It's not easy to teach theory. It's something that does require you to push a little bit, but also don't forget to pause and take breaks every so often, and to help them be excited at some stage, because I know that you got into this because you found excitement and passion somewhere. Thank you for your first presentation. How do you manage the slow learners through online teaching? Thank you for your question. That's what I love about the fact that the pandemic has forced things online. I feel we need to be realistic about time frames, and I know because things were always face-to-face, it has to be in this time. If you are not marking something immediately or going through something immediately, then allow the time to pass, allow things to happen, and give them time to go through the content. Give them realistic amounts of time to be able to go through things. Allow them to be able to go back to things. A lot of people say, you can decide to record a session such as today, and then decide, I'm not going to release the session until about 3 days' time. So that those who missed the session or just decided not to come without having a valid excuse have to wait in order to get the content. But those who struggle and are slow, they now have the opportunity to pause you if they feel it's too much. And perhaps it is something that we need to encourage. Pause and take a break and then go back. Have those questions on the side so that you make sure that they are going through it. But at the end of the day, we can also only do so much. These things in certain time frames, we can choose to be compassionate. And we talk about compassionate education. We can choose to be understanding about anybody's circumstances. Because I have a filter in the background. I could be living in the smallest little space and you would have no idea. So we have to think about it and acknowledge what is on the other side. I see there's another question. I just need to scroll, sorry. Today, educational technology, EdTech, is not a discussion, but an integral part of school. How can schools create an environment where students are taught and encouraged to be confident digital citizens, and where e-learning safety is part of any technology decisions? Safety first. Safety and health first is what I always say. So in terms of online safety, I think it's more about educating the young ones, educating those online, and being able to expose them to what the red flags are, just in terms of safety. I know a lot of LMSs and online spaces that are given, and there's such value in having that LMS or online space, because it actually helps to create that sense of security and not allow anything external to get in there. So that's something that I highly recommend. And in terms of digital literacy, you have to give them the chance to practice. You have to allow them the time to learn. With anything, I teach on an LMS every day, and people will email, I forgot how to do this. It's okay. It's okay to forget if you're not practicing the same thing every day. So you give little tasks so that you're forcing them to even just practice clicking online or searching for something or going to everybody find the same thing online. It's about education, and it's about putting things in place to hopefully help and guide. But remember, you can only do so much, and I know that you're doing all you can. I'm going to stop there. They said that my time is up. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, I know that you can still keep posting. They will send me the questions and I will be happy to answer it at the end. Thank you so much to all the organizers. I know there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and thank you so much to all of you for listening. I look
Thank
forward
you so
to
much, Donna. It was a pleasure having you on board. Indeed, a fun, interactive session. Thank you so much for engaging us so well. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
It's a pleasure having you on board. And the questions,
Thank
we will
you.
email it to you so that you can get back to the delegates on the same.
That sounds good.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.